July 2nd, 2020. So Donald Trump's former national security advisor came out with a tell-all book last week. Perhaps you heard? The John Bolton doorstop weighs in at 700 pages, although a full 40% of the volume is footnotes, so it can actually be read in a week or so. So I read it in a week, actually. The Room Where It Happened. Isn't that a great title, or what? Yeah, what? Has gotten a lot of attention for A, portraying the president as an ignorant, incompetent buffoon, and 2, betraying the author's cynicism for refusing to testify at Trump's impeachment hearing so he could cash in later, which is now, I suppose. As to the first charge, I think a careful reading of the book will lead to the conclusion that, although the president is an ignorant, incompetent buffoon, that's not exactly man bites dog news. And Bolton's chief complaint about the chief executive seems to be that Trump was too slow to go to war against, pick one or more, Syria, Turkey, North Korea, Venezuela, Iran. With regard to the accusations of Bolton's fecklessness, a term that I now think I understand, well, I purchased the book, so there's that. And as I made clear in December, I found the Democrats' articles of impeachment to be somewhat lacking. And by somewhat, I mean utterly without merit as far as removing the president from office. Along the way, the officious ex officio manages to trash nearly every significant peace treaty made over the last 40 years, demonstrating the Bolton doctrine. Shoot first, ask questions later. He also calls out every one of his national security co-workers as being little more than long-haired hippie freak peaceniks. Bolton all but equates Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and his successor Mike Pompeo, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, UN Secretary Nikki Haley, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions with Neville Chamberlain. Seems he never met a treaty or a peer he didn't hate. He also doesn't hold the Obama administration in very high regard. A big surprise there. Exercising Herculean restraint, Bolton had been on the job almost a full week before he advocated going to battle in Syria, which may well have touched off World War III, given Russian support for Bashar al-Assad. Bolton's frustration with his boss's wishy-washy approach to Syria comes off as little more than whining when he, Bolton, didn't get his way. No war for you until you eat your vegetables, Johnny. That Bolton doesn't have much use for Kim Jong-un is understandable. That he doesn't have much use for the interests of South Korea, not so much. He criticizes President Moon Jae-in for being more interested in Korean unification than in perpetuating Cold War U.S. strategic interests. Imagine that. Indeed, with the first Trump-Kim summit about to unravel, Moon stepped in to save the day by flattering Trump personally, much to Bolton's chagrin. No doubt Bolton would have called Bobby Kennedy a pussy for negotiating a peaceful resolution to the Cuban Missile Crisis rather than running headlong into World War III in 1962. Thus, John Better Dead Than Red Bolton sulked after another near-miss opportunity for war. In Venezuela, Bolton laments that we, meaning he, were this close to overthrowing their version of Mussolini and Nicolas Maduro. While Maduro has destroyed his country's economy and looted its wealth, Bolton's issue seems to be the missed chance to create a new banana republic to do the United States' bidding in South America. As for Iran, well, Bolton seems to long for the days of the Shah. Remember 1953? In both Iran and the Americas, U.S. policy was, as it has so often been, to prop up tin-horn dictators who relish oppressing their people as long as we can rape the country's natural resources. Good times. If Bolton holds tyrannical dictators like Vladimir Putin, Bashar al-Assad, Kim Jong-un, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Nicolas Maduro, and Ali Khamenei in low regard, and rightfully so, he doesn't have a much better opinion of Emmanuel Macron, Moon Jae-in, Angela Merkel, Shinzo Abe, or Justin Trudeau. The Allies' major sin, it seems, is an eagerness to negotiate with horrible people rather than, fight them, which has somehow left a bad taste in their mouths. Memories and war memorials to millions of dead are such a bitch. Bolton spends a good amount of time carping at his cabinet colleagues, especially Mnuchin, for their process errors, which basically means sticking their noses in other people's business. Fair enough, but when he gets his hand slapped for trying to restore order by putting the National Security Council, which he typically chaired, in charge of, say, Treasury policy, he pisses and moans. I guess what's good for the goose ain't necessarily good for the gander. To his credit, there are a few humorous passages in the book, and Bolton does call out the Paris Climate Accord as theology masquerading as policy, which is spot on. Chapter 8, Chaos as a Way of Life, is a strong indictment of Trump's, hey, look, a squirrel, lack of focus and petulant personal attacks, but we've heard it all before. In all, Bolton's tell-all amounts to nothing more than the same petulant whining he claims to join the administration as one of the adults to prevent. John Bolton spent 14 months as National Security Advisor and nearly started 2 to 3 wars, which somehow seems like some sort of a record. He blames others for bureaucratic stall tactics on actions he favors, yet exercises the same tactic to stall diplomacy. At one point, I think it involved bombing Iran, when Bolton's hard-on for war was cock-blocked by the president, I found myself thinking, thank God for Donald Trump. But perhaps Bolton's greatest sin is at the end of his tome, when he misquoted, then misattributed a former Mets manager asking, in despair, "Can't anybody here play this game?" That was the great Casey Stengel, not Yogi Berra, Johnny boy. I might ask the same about you.